Mixing and mastering are so hard. I mean, just look at all this stuff. Watch this video and hopefully it will reduce some of the overwhelm you may feel about mixing and mastering, and it will give you some tips about how to make developing your mixing and mastering skills easier and a lot less intimidating. Now, the number one thing to realise here is that you are not alone. Everyone feels like this. I've been mixing and mastering for 20-something years. I still feel like this even after all that time. So you are not alone. Do not think everyone else has got this sorted and you're just rubbish. You're not. You're just feeling exactly the same as what everyone else feels. Now, if you went to sit down at a piano or pick up a guitar or a trumpet or a saxophone or the drums, whatever, you would not expect to be good straight away. To get good at anything takes time and practice. So I want you to think about mixing and mastering as learning an instrument. You're not going to be able to do really virtuoso stuff straight away. It's just not going to be possible. But you can pick up simple things quite quickly. The key is practice, practice, practice. I'm sure you're bored of people telling you that. And to change your attitude, don't think, right, I'm going to sit down this afternoon and I'm going to become great at mixing and mastering. You're not, any more than, if you've never played the piano before and you sit down at the piano and you say, right, this afternoon I'm going to be able to play Rachmaninoff. You're not. So don't expect to be good straight away. All I want you to do is just resolve to get a little bit better after every mix. That's all you can do. One of the reasons mixing and mastering is so hard is there's so much to learn. There are so many elements to it. I mean, just look at the screen here, and that's just a tiny fraction of what this software, this DAW, which is Reaper, is capable of. You've got EQ, compression, gain staging, level balancing, automation, panning. There's so much to learn. So bearing that in mind, what I want you to do when you first start mixing is not worry about any of those things and just focus on one thing. The very first mix, all you're going to do is just use the faders to balance the levels, balance the volumes, get all the instruments sounding good in relation to each other, how loud they are. Your drums are too loud, turn them down a bit. Guitars can't hear them quite well enough, turn them up a bit. That's it. That's all I want you to do in your first mix. Don't worry about any of the EQ, compression, automation, any of that fancy stuff. Just move the faders and get all your tracks nicely balanced. Now, another thing I want you to do that will make your mixing life easier is do basic gain staging. What is gain staging, I may hear you ask? Well, gain staging is making all the tracks roughly the same volume when the faders are all in their 0 dB positions in a straight line, like this. So you can see they're all in different positions at the moment. If I just went through every one and just made them all, put them all in their default 0 dB positions here, what we want is for all the tracks to be the same volume when they're in that position, which gives us a perfect starting point for our mix. Why would we do this? Well, when you're recording, things are just naturally going to be recorded at different volumes, however careful you are. And what you might find is that if you have a particular track that has been recorded quiet, you may say, okay, well, I'll just turn the volume up there. And then when you come to do the mixing, you realize, oh, okay, that's not quite loud enough in my mix. I need to make it a bit louder. And there's nowhere to go because you've already moved it right to the top of the fader. So ideally what you want is for, before you even start your mix, all your tracks to be the same volume when they're all the faders are in that position. It just gives you a good starting point and hopefully will mean that you're not going to scupper yourself later on in your mix. Now, another thing I want you to do is listen to songs that are in the same genre as the songs that you mix. Now, you're probably looking at me now going, well, I'd listen to music in that genre all the time. What are you on about, Paul? Well, I mean listen. I don't just mean listen, I mean listen. Really listen. And I want you to listen with the ears of a mixer. How loud are the drums? What does the bass sound like? How is the mix panned? Are the vocals double tracked? Do the guitars sound really fat and thick, or are they quite thin and sparkly? How overdriven are they? Have you got any acoustic guitars in there? Are they a main instrument and part of the mix, or are they just there for texture and you can't really hear the chords on them? This sort of thing, this is what I want you to listen to. I want you to focus on and actually make notes if you want. Listen to a song similar to the sort of songs that you make and write down the things that you hear. And then you can later try and reproduce those in your mixing. Now we've got to talk about EQ. EQ is hugely important in mixing. I think that EQ is the hardest thing in mixing. I've been doing this for a long time and I still struggle with it. Very brief explanation of EQ. EQ is like a volume control for individual frequency bands. So if you wanted to remove the bass out of a particular track, you could just do that with EQ. If you wanted to boost the very high frequencies, you could do that. I think the key is to experiment. Actually try things. So go onto the internet, find, you can look up common EQ moves and things, say, how do I EQ an electric guitar? And you'll find some suggestions. What I want you to do is take those suggestions, don't just verbatim put them in your mix, but try one of the suggestions. Okay, I should do a boost at that frequency. Try it and listen to what the effect is, but then overdo it. If it says boost it 3 dB, then boost it 12 dB. You wouldn't do that in an actual mix, but what I'm trying to do is get you to train your ears to listen to that frequency. The same with cuts, if it says cut 2 dB at 2 kilohertz, then try it, but really cut it out 12 dB. And really listen to the effect that has. You're training your ears to identify frequencies and their effect here. Now, EQ is a fantastic tool, but because it's powerful, it can quite as easily destroy your mix as it can make it great, which is why I don't advise using EQ straight away for your first mix. I would concentrate just on balancing levels and getting that right first before you go anywhere near EQ. Similarly to EQ, compression is again very important. Very brief explanation of compression if you don't know what it is. Compression is making the loud parts of your mix quieter and the quiet parts louder. So what happens is you get a huge range of volumes, you reduce the range of volumes. This is important to get levels more consistent, so you don't have very, very loud parts and very, very quiet parts. Again, I would suggest experimenting with compression in the same way as EQ. Find some suggestions, try them out, see what the effect is, so you train your ears to listen to what that does to a particular track in your mix. I'm going to talk a little bit about presets. Presets are things that have been preset in a plugin for you. So for example, let's say an EQ plugin, there might be an acoustic guitar preset where it will have particular EQ bands that have been cut and boosted, designed to try and make an acoustic guitar sound good in a mix. Presets tend to be much maligned, and the reason for this is because every mix is different. There isn't just one magic formula that you can apply to every instrument in every mix and it just be done. Great, mix done like that. Otherwise, mixing would be very easy. You could just automate it. A computer could do it. But what I want you to do, how I want you to use presets, is to start with them, is to learn from them. I want you to try out these presets and listen to what the effect is. And then I want you to experiment and try, okay, well, if that frequency is cut there, what happens if I move that frequency up 500 hertz? What's the effect? Again, what we're doing is we're training your ears here. You can make it sound absolutely terrible when you're experimenting. It doesn't matter. The aim is to train your ears to listen to what the effect of various moves are. Now, I've concentrated on mixing throughout this video, so I'm going to talk a little bit about mastering. Essentially, mastering is bringing the volume of your track up to commercial track levels. In all honesty, I wouldn't worry about mastering for now. If you're watching this video, you're probably at the start of learning about mixing and mastering. And I wouldn't concern yourself with it. I would concentrate on mixing for now. You can use free and commercial automated tools online to do your mastering, and that's the way that I would go for now. Now, this video has a companion article on the homemusiccreator.com website. It has everything that's in this video, but goes into a bit more detail. There are also some handy links to free and paid automated mastering tools that you can use online. So if that sounds interesting to you, then please go and check out homemusiccreator.com/mix. So how long will it take you to learn mixing and mastering? Depends on so many things, doesn't it? You can learn the basics in a few days. Now, your ears do need a lot of time to train them to focus on particular frequencies and the effect of doing things with those frequencies in a whole mix. That's not going to come quickly, but with time and a lot of practice, you will get there. Just be patient. Thanks very much for watching. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. Now, go create some music. Cheers.